On Wednesday's Alfred Daily, a woman's rescued by Firecrew from the side of a Shaftesbury path.
It's not the sort of place you'd find yourself in by choice.
Which magazine readers don't rate our town's food and shopping offer highly.
With regard to the shopping, I'm surprised because there's a huge amount of independent shops.
How Motcombe hopes to become greener with policies in the future.
With real actions, not just words.
Why the town council's hoping to drum up new councillors.
What we want to be able to do is to break down some of the barriers.
A Maltings woman says the police weren't there for her when she needed help.
Didn't even take our names, didn't take our address, didn't offer anything like support.
Off to West Melbury and John Stanley's farming diary. Today, he bravely makes a weather prediction for the winter ahead.
Berries galore on the hedgerows.
And the Carnival window competition sets to return. All that and more on the way after your What's-Ons for Shaftesbury, the Vale and Chase.
Alfred from Shaftesbury. Alfred Free Time.
Tomorrow, a chance to enjoy two films at Donhead St Mary. You can see The Fabelmans at the Village Hall, being screened at 7:30. What's Love Got to Do With It, with Emma Thompson, is on at Motcombe's Memorial Hall, again at 7:30. Tickets from the shop in Motcombe. And there's three stand-up comedians making you laugh at the Grosvenor tomorrow, Thursday evening. They start at 8 p.m. The comedy night, as always, is led by Jared Christmas.
Constantly keeping my eyes and ears open for things that I find interesting.
Go to the Grosvenor Arms Hotel website, where you'll find a link for booking. Friday morning, a coffee morning for Macmillan, and it's taking place at Motcombe Methodist Church. It runs from 10 until 12 noon. There's fun for the entire family on Friday afternoon with 5 inflatables, including an assault course and a bungee game at Abbey Primary School in St James from 5:30 till 9:30, and a bar for the grown-ups as well. Friday night, music night. Tom Clements performs at the Shaston Club at 7:30. There's a quiz on Friday evening with Paul Merrifield at the Royal British Legion Hall. It's for the Shaftesbury Twinning Association, and it begins at 7 o'clock. On Friday night, you can see the indie film Tar. It's been screened at Shaftesbury Arts Centre. It's a psychological drama filmed last year. It tells the story of Lydia Tar, a world-renowned conductor facing accusations of misconduct. 2 car boot sales to choose from on Saturday. There's a car boot and car wash at Shaftesbury Primary School running from 10 till 1. It's £5 per car if you're selling. And also it's the final car boot sale on Park Walk by Abbey Primary School during the day on Saturday. The kids may enjoy crafting at Shaftesbury Library on Saturday morning to celebrate Roald Dahl Day, and they'll be shown how to make their own giraffe from the Giraffe and the Pelly and Me in the free session from 11 till 12. There's an indoor and outdoor craft market with plenty of gifts on sale, food and live music, arranged by Alison Harding at Shaftesbury Town Hall, a fundraiser for Weldmar Hospice Care and the Dorset and Somerset Air Ambulance, 9 till 5 this Saturday. Published nature writer Jane Addams has an inspiring writing workshop to encourage you how to write about wildlife and what you see outdoors. It's happening at the Friends Meeting House on Saturday morning from 10 o'clock. And you can book by going to the Shaftesbury Book Festival Reading the Land website. Just Google Reading the Land and you'll find details about the event called Writing the Land.
I'm all for, if you can, getting down on your hands and knees and really looking at stuff. So, if weather permitting...
Local duo Hummingbird will entertain you in the Shaftesbury Abbey Gardens with a gig between 3 and 5 on Saturday afternoon.
I like to do all the genres. I probably don't do sort of heavy rock, but other than that I pretty much cover most of them, and your voice naturally does sort of change a bit.
There's a service of remembrance recalling the Battle of Britain on Park Walk on Sunday starting at 11 o'clock. If you love the 60s, you'll enjoy the Foremosts. They'll be performing at Shaftesbury Arts Centre at 7:30 on Sunday evening.
Tap the foot, clap those hands, and I'm just taking some live music.
There's a quiz night at the Crown Inn, East Stour. You could win £100 on Sunday evening starting at 7.
Alfred Free Time. Email hello@thisisalfred.com. This is the Alfred Daily.
The emergency services, including Firecrew from both Shaftesbury and Poole stations, were called out to Pine Walk yesterday afternoon at around 3:45 to rescue a local woman who got into difficulty on the slope above Tanyard Lane after she went to retrieve her dog.
And it was a lady who'd found herself rather unfortunately in a position where she couldn't really safely get down from a steep slope, which was the slope between Pine Walk and Stony Path. It's not the sort of place you'd find yourself in by choice, that's for sure. The lady had unfortunately been walking her dog and had found herself near the edge of the path and then had lost her footing and slipped. And I think it's the sort of thing could happen to anyone in a just an unfortunate accident, that she wasn't doing anything she shouldn't have been doing. She just strayed to the edge and lost her footing and found herself with an injury to her leg, which meant she'd got to kind of wait there until she could be recovered.
So she couldn't clamber back up because she was injured?
She was injured, and I'm sure she would have made every effort to get herself back up. We very rarely would go to someone who couldn't do that for themselves. So in this instance, the lady was very, very wise to stay where she was. She'd got some help from the ambulance service who could give her some pain relief, and then we've gone there to recover and get her down as safely as possible. We go for several reasons. One is that we want to make sure that no one else gets injured, no one without proper equipment or proper training gets involved in helping her and gets themselves injured. And also she doesn't make her situation worse by trying to force herself to get out or get down from that position.
Thankfully, the woman wasn't badly hurt.
No, she was very jolly and very friendly to us, and she was a really nice lady to work with. She'd got a lower leg injury, which hopefully will all go well for her and hopefully she'll recover from.
The incident may have appeared more dramatic than it was to anybody passing by.
The two crews from Shaftesbury went to the incident, which is a normal kind of attendance, two crews of about 5 people. And you would think that's quite a lot of people, but once you kind of divide up all the jobs that need doing, you very easily use all those people. If you think just to carry a person from A to B might take 4 of you, to pass someone down a steep slope or make sure they stay safe while they're moving takes quite a lot of people to do it. And we then were also joined by our colleagues who do more advanced rescues. They travelled from Poole Fire Station, and I know we've talked about them in the past when we've recovered animals or encountered difficult rescues before, but this is also their area of expertise, to move someone from a dangerous position.
Did you use ropes or some other means of getting her down?
So the process is the first crews that arrive will secure somebody in position. So, of course, the worst thing that could happen is that something gets worse. So the fire service's first job is to secure everyone where they are. So that's to use ropes like people would traditionally see for climbing, or what you sometimes see for people using on the side of like a skyscraper for cleaning. It's that kind of equipment. It's kind of devices that will lower a rope and position someone on a steep slope. So we'll put that kind of stuff in place to keep someone where they are. And we can do that with our colleagues from other agencies. So if there was an ambulance member of staff or police officer there, we could put them into a harness and we could secure them into a position. And then to actually move the lady, because it's very hard to stand up on one foot or one leg in that kind of environment. So we then would transfer her into what is called a basket stretcher, which is the sort of thing that you might see suspended from a helicopter on a sort of dramatic TV show when someone's been winched up. A basket stretcher is one of those metal frames that goes round a person, and then you can use that to slide them on the ground. So rather than trying to lift someone or do something sort of Hollywood out of it all, we would just slide them on the ground using that metal stretcher to get them down.
The woman was taken to safety quickly.
It's a really quick thing to do, Kerry. It takes us a little while to make sure everything's safe. I would imagine the actual work process probably only took about 25 or 30 minutes. Our colleagues from Poole had arrived within about 10 minutes of the crew from Shaftesbury arriving, and their kit was deployed straight away. We take our time because we obviously want to make sure we do everything really safely and really smoothly. It kind of exemplifies quite well the variation of things that the fire service get involved in. And the crew from Shaftesbury, obviously, as we've talked about in the past, are all on-call crews and all have another job. So we can quite often sometimes use the skills and knowledge they have in other jobs. If they've got knowledge of working in that kind of environment, it's quite useful to us at our station to have that knowledge.
You guys came up from Poole. They're a specialist unit. Is that because this is almost like a kind of a cliff-top rescue with a sort of terrain there?
Yeah, that's right. You've got it pretty much spot on. It is because the nature of that work requires an awful lot of training. So the local crews, our crews at Shaftesbury who have other jobs, would find it very hard to fit in all that extra training. So our crews are trained to work on a slope like that to make things safe and to keep themselves safe, but then to move someone from A to B in that kind of environment takes a lot of extra knowledge and a lot of extra training. So we then bring in crews that do a lot of that kind of work, and they specialise in The really difficult things, which is anything which is below the surface or up high or on a steep slope, they also would be used to working in the water or on ice or in slurry or movable things. So they're a really well-trained team, and they carry a lot of extra equipment with them, which marries nicely into what we do. So we'll arrive and secure things, and that gives a nice time window for them to travel the extra distance and start work.
Matt Scott of Shaftesbury Fire Station. Next, the hunt is on for men who attacked a Maltings car with hammers. The weather's on the way.
Today's Alfred broadcasts are made possible thanks to the support of these Shaftesbury area businesses. Wessex Internet, helping Alfred and thousands of Shaftesbury area residents connect across the countryside.
Boatwrights, our town's local and trusted estate agent.
BV Dairy, proud to support the local community. Learn more online at bvdairy.co.uk.
Elite Garages at Bell Street Car Park for tyres, brakes, exhausts, clutches, batteries and all servicing, specialising in electric vehicles.
Now a commercial announcement. Here's what's new at Shaftesbury's Morrison's Daily with the manager Sharon Horseman.
Hi, this is Sharon from Morrison's Daily in Shaftesbury. Oh, who loves a bar of chocolate? So we've got the Galaxy Smooth 100-gram bars, Galaxy Caramel 135-gram bars, or the brand new Smooth Mint 110-gram bars. Oh, I think I need to try this one. It'd be rude not to.
Shaftesbury's 10 past forecast.
I'm Ash Jury with Shaftesbury's weather. This afternoon it'll be cloudy to start with, a few sunny spells developing as the afternoon goes on. Winds will be light but coming from the northwest, and temperatures will be 18 degrees by 4 in St James. This evening there'll be a few sunny spells to finish the day, which will lead to a dry night with some clear spells. A more comfortable night to come too, with temperatures getting down to 12 degrees in the early hours. Looking ahead to Thursday, it's sunny spells to start with, but a rather cloudy afternoon.
Just a quick reminder today and tomorrow, Calves Lane, which is the cut-through from the Shaftesbury to Gillingham Road that goes from opposite Port Rouge's School towards Long Cross. It's closed during the day from 9 till around 3:30 for work by Openreach. Tomorrow, Thursday, there'll be a closure of the main road through Stour Row for that company to do work as well. That'll be between, again, about 9 and 3:30. Any problems on the roads, let us know. hello@thisisalfred.com. Roads can be stressful, but a moment of calm now, a moment of reflection and observation with our Shaston seasonal reflection. Again, Joe Hatchman's out and about, telling you what he's seen.
Fresh cowpats tell tale of a herd in this field, so we keep close to the edge, running, rolling, feeling the freedom of a gradient steeply dropping. We shirk the public footpath, walking parallel with a fence to where it crosses a 7-bar gate tied shut with frayed, weather-worn baler twine. Ever curious and as expected, one by one, the herd ceases its quiet grazing. Some individuals swing great black and white bodies around. Others seem to kneel, then stand. Soon we're face to face with nearly 30 beasts, tails swishing and backs twitching against the flies, cloven hooves slightly splayed, heads down. 302755 twists its head sideways through the top bars. We feel they could easily stampede if collectively inclined. But these are gentle giants. As I step forwards, they lurch back.
From the high point of Dorset, this is Alfred.
A Shaftesbury woman says she's been let down by Dorset police, whom she alleges didn't respond to a 999 call when a crime was in progress and didn't want to take her details after the event, even though the incident was captured on CCTV. The woman, Gemma, only using her first name, thinks people living on the Maltings may need to work closer together to tackle an increase in crime.
So we've been on holiday for a week in Tenerife, and we came back to find our car vandalised on the front drive, and the car had been hit with looked like a hammer, so both the wing mirrors have been smashed and the windscreen wipers have been bent. We got CCTV footage of them then entering the back garden, looking at a bike, maybe noticing the cameras and then not taking it. And they spent about an hour on our property going back and forth to the car, hitting it and attempting to get into it.
This happened on Coles Crescent.
So this was between the hours of 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning on the 10th of September.
Gemma says this didn't trigger the car alarm.
Because our car has a flat battery.
You've got CCTV footage. Have you got something like a Ring doorbell?
It's actually our neighbour's CCTV, which actually reaches onto some of our drives, so it was able to capture the culprits, 2 of them, in quite a full image, although they are covered. They've covered their faces with some sort of scarf.
But you can make out their size and their build, their gender.
You can see their build, you can see that they're males.
I mean, was there anything distinctive about what they were wearing that you could see?
So both were wearing, I'd say, hoodies with the hood up and jogging bottoms. But the thing that did stick out was one of them had black shoes on, and they were making quite a bit of a clippity-clop as he walked, which did seem a bit odd with the tracksuit. So my next door neighbour, the one that actually caught them on video, they were woken up by the banging and they looked out the window, and actually my neighbour came out onto the drive. This was in between them hitting the car, thought that they'd left and went back in, but then his partner noticed that he had something quite hard to be hitting it, so she said please don't go back out, because she was worried for his safety.
Which is understandable. Somebody's got a hammer.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And they also phoned the police when it was happening, and the police said they wouldn't come because they couldn't see their faces.
Your neighbours called 999?
999 around 10 to 3, so they started damaging the car about 2:30, and about 10 to 3 they called the police, and they were still on the property and the police refused to come.
What reason did the police give for not coming?
They said because they couldn't see their faces, so they wouldn't come out.
Oh, so your neighbour said that they were covered up?
Yeah, that's right.
Did that surprise you?
Yes, very. I just really shocked, really. I think it's awful.
Did your neighbour say that they were concerned about their own physical safety?
Yes, they are. We've actually gone in there yesterday and spoken to them, and they're concerned that now that their car will be damaged as well, and they were shook up, visibly shook up.
Dorset police have come back and confirmed receiving that third-party phone call from Gemma's neighbour at 10 to 3 on the Sunday morning. They said they were told the offender had left the scene 25 minutes earlier, and an investigation had been launched with a follow-up inquiry to be tasked when an officer became available. The caller was told to ring 999 again if the offenders returned. Gemma told Alfred that when she got back from holiday herself, she too contacted the police using 101, and they have confirmed receiving a call on Sunday the 10th at 20 to 5 in the afternoon, detailing damage to Gemma's vehicle.
My son actually rang them the day after it happened, because we were still travelling back from Tenerife, and they said they gave him a 14-day response time, and then we rang them, both me and my partner, 3 times yesterday with the same response, that because there's no face visual image, they won't do anything. They didn't even take our names, address, anything. And they said they got no resources for it.
So when you rang 101 and they asked you whether a face was visible on the CCTV?
That's right.
And you said there wasn't, and they just said, we're not doing anything?
Yeah, that's right. My partner got quite upset and said that he's worried about his children and the fact that they touched his son's bike as well. And, they just said that because there's no face image that they can't do anything.
Did the police offer any advice or offer to come round and
No.
give crime prevention hints or help in that way?
Didn't even take our names, didn't take our address, didn't offer anything like support.
Dorset police say the decision to dispatch officers to a scene is based on the assessment of the immediacy of any threat, risk and investigative opportunities in order to prioritise police resources where they can be most effective. They say at the time this incident was reported, it was stated that the offenders had left the scene some time ago and officers were committed with other high-priority incidents. They say a full evidential review of the case was conducted to consider any viable lines of enquiry, but for CCTV to assist an investigation, the offender must be captured on the camera. They must be linked to the crime and will need to be identified. Whilst it has been established that this incident was captured on CCTV, the offenders' faces were covered and no identification was possible. They say, as with all cases, officers will consider any new lines of enquiry should they emerge, and they will be explored appropriately.
And we're all very upset and anxious. I won't even stay in the house without my door locked in the day.
Gemma says she didn't request a crime incident number from the police, which would require her address and details, because she doesn't intend claiming from her insurer because of the cost. Although this is an extreme example, she says it's not an isolated incident. There's been a rise in crime on the estate recently.
So there has been incidents since this happened to us where people have been trying car doors and houses, and the police won't do anything, and they said this is just a normal thing now, that's what everyone expects, and we just all have to look after each other because there is no police.
That sounds almost like people are talking about vigilanteism. Do you mean that, or just look out for each other, keeping an eye on neighbours with a neighbourhood watch type thing?
I think sort of looking out for each other, but I think if this continues, people are going to start to get angry, and you know, there's going to be repercussions. We're not the law, we can't take it into our own hands, but I think that's what's going to happen. I've lived here 12 years, and I know that I've heard of things being broken into, but it's never personally happened to me. And I feel really violated, and I understand how people feel so upset now.
And Dorset Police say local officers from their neighbourhood policing teams are supported by response colleagues from the local command area, as well as specialist teams from their Force Operations Department, who will respond to priority jobs on a 24/7 basis.
This is the Alfred Daily.
Like some kind of man-made mosquito, you might have heard the high-pitched buzz of the drone in the air above Gold Hill yesterday. And you might have seen the high-vis-clad and hard hat-wearing men and women engineers standing there looking into gadgets on tripods, theodolites, observing the huge retaining wall that lines the slope. The drone was up in the air to inspect it. These were postgraduate students, some employees of Dorset Council, some people connected with the university in Derby, which I was told has the best engineering course for surveyors. Rachel Diamond had a chat with some of the team. You might know from our previous Alfred broadcasts, there's no clear ownership of the old Abbey Wall, but the Dorset Highways team undertake a survey twice a year. Rachel was told it's not moved for 10 years, which is a good sign. There's a distinct bulge near the top, but it's thought that occurred because a tree was previously on top of the wall at that point, and since the tree's been removed, the wall hasn't budged.
Alfred, sharing great stories from Motcombe.
Last night, residents of Motcombe heard how Tisbury-based Nadder Valley Energy operates as a community-owned company exploring ways to generate renewable power through turbines, heat pumps and solar panels. The group operates a car club for members using 2 electric vehicles that villagers can rent. At the September Motcombe Parish Council meeting, a presentation by Nadder Valley's Alan Marion Davis and former Motcombe resident Rosemary Buck explained how the community buys shares that allow their enterprise to purchase equipment with shareholders' funds. Shareholders benefit from a share of proceeds from feed-in tariffs. First, the group raised just under £500,000, putting solar panels on 10 commercial buildings. A second share offer in 2018 arranged solar units on school buildings, and they're about to launch a third project which will widen their geographic remit across North Dorset and take in schools in Shaftesbury. Motcombe Parish Councillor Peter Mounsey was particularly interested in the group's role in considering climate and ecological issues in Tisbury. He sees merit in setting up a similar body in Motcombe to help refresh the village's neighbourhood plan. That's the planning blueprint for development, which aims to protect and enhance what Motcombe residents feel is important.
I just think that a gaping hole in our current neighbourhood plan was a real consideration of a climate change strategy, and it really demonstrates how quickly things have changed since our plan was developed. And of course, most of the groundwork was done long before it was actually approved in January 2020.
This isn't a new relationship. The Tisbury Group attended a Motcombe Parish Council meeting in 2021.
We've had discussions already with Nadder Valley Energy about whether they would be interested in extending their reach into the Motcombe area. And as you heard tonight, they have projects going as far afield as Sherborne. So they're not that's something that they would consider if we had appropriate sites that we could have energy projects developed on. For example, where we might put solar panels and things like that. But what I really wanted to do tonight was to get a better feel for the sort of things we might put into a climate change strategy for an update of the neighbourhood plan and to stimulate thinking as much as anything. And I think that was very useful, particularly with Rosie Buck coming along and talking about the practicalities of what they've achieved within Tisbury and how that works with Nadder energy, community energy, because that's where it started, was in Tisbury. So it's logical that there is a close working relationship between their parish council and the organisation itself. So it's really just to open our eyes to some of the things that we might be thinking about, to make sure that we have a really good section in the next iteration of the neighbourhood plan, and that we get the village enthused about some of the things. I was particularly interested in the eco trail, of the idea of going round houses where they have undertaken energy projects to open people's minds and eyes to what they might do. So that's really what this evening was about.
So you think there could be a separate group that would, I suppose, sit between the neighbourhood plan committee and the parish council just to focus on environmental initiatives?
I think we already have representatives on the parish council with some environmental credentials, if you like. But what we haven't really got is what should we be doing about it? So whether it's one person on the parish council or whether we end up, as we move forward on the reiteration of the neighbourhood plan, have a small group concerned with those issues, because we're quite a small parish council, obviously smaller than Tisbury. So we have to make sure that we use our resources wisely. And if we can get other people in the village interested in aspects like the environment, then that would be a good bridge between the parish council and the wider residents of the village.
You already have quite a lot of things that Tisbury may not necessarily have. I don't know Tisbury that well, but you've got the meadows, for example.
Oh, yes. Ecologically speaking, we're quite rich. There's no question about that. And there's more that we can be doing with that. But I think it's what individuals can do, individual householders can do. What might, for example, the community shop be able to do, the school, etc., etc. So it's looking at what are the wider opportunities which we might consider.
And your thought is, at this stage, certainly with looking at perhaps sustainable power on the rooftops of school, for example, there's no point trying to reinvent the wheel. It's best to use Nadder Valley Community Energy than do your own Motcombe thing.
Exactly. They have all the expertise, and we can get parties together to consider the way forward. And it's interesting to hear that they're now doing work in Shaftesbury itself. It's closing in around us, so as to speak. So yes, it's the start of a conversation. And as I've said, it's an opportunity for us to hear what a more enlightened council is doing than perhaps we are in this field. Dorset have their climate emergency strategies. They've got new policies coming in next year in support of that. And we want to make sure that those sort of things cascade down into the neighbourhood plan with real actions, not just words.
Peter says the next challenge will be trying to determine what's right for Motcombe and driving a project forward.
And how can we engage with the community in some of the areas that we might move this forward on? Very early stages, Kerry. Food for thought. We need to discuss in a lot more detail exactly how we can apply these sorts of principles within Motcombe. And I don't think we know enough about what's going on in Motcombe anyway. There's never been, if you like, an energy audit of how good we are as a village. Apart from some of the figures that years ago, nothing since then, really. Clean slate, start again from scratch.
But would the parish council be the driving force to get this instigated?
I think we have to be. I think that's our role. That should be our role. And therefore we need to take more of a lead in this than we've perhaps done up till now.
There's likely to be more discussion at the October Motcombe Parish Council meeting. Councillor Peter Mounsey there.
Alfred Free Time.
If you're looking for something to do tomorrow, Thursday the 14th of September, but you don't want to travel too far, then we've got some great entertainment options for you coming up. First off, at the Forum in Bath, it's The Rest is Politics, which is live with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. That's at 7:30. Chapel Arts are going all out Americana with the Annie Keating Band, and at the Rondo it's Marcus Birdman in some comedy, which is his show Platinum. Poole's Lighthouse have got Legends of Variety with Anita Harris, the Grumbleweeds, Tommy Cannon, etc., and that's from 2 o'clock. And they've also got some cinema, which is the latest Indiana Jones film and the Dial of Destiny at 4:30. Finally, head to Wimborne's Tivoli for the Bay City Rollers. Those are your events for tomorrow, Thursday the 14th of September, within about an hour's drive of Shaftesbury.
This is the Alfred Daily.
Shaftesbury has ranked 69th in the list of the 100 best inland towns and villages in the UK. The consumer watchdog Which asked 9,000 of its members to rate the places they visited. The West Country's fared well, with Wells and Somerset overall number 1, followed by Avery and Wiltshire, and Corfe Castle taking the number 3 position. Places were scored according to their attractions, scenery, attractiveness, sense of peace and quiet, as well as food and drink options and retail offer. The overall winner, Wells, gained a rating of 83%. Avery 82% and Corfe Castle 80%. Shaftesbury's rating was 70%, meaning our towns on level pegging with Stow and the Wolds, Marlborough, Burford, Buxton and Derbyshire, and Knaresborough in North Yorkshire. We gained top marks, 5 out of 5 for both scenery and peace and quiet. Surprisingly, only scoring 3 out of 5 for general attractiveness and just 2 out of 5 for both food and drink and shopping. Trevor Clements is the manager of Shaftesbury's Tourist Information Hub inside Morrison's Daily.
I think by my own confession, probably be fair to say is the eating and drinking offering during the day is much more wider than it is in the evening. But I don't think this survey is differentiated between the two. But I mean, it has been commented on for a long time that if you're staying in the town, say for a week or so, it's quite difficult to find a different place to eat every night. So that's probably fair comment. But with regard to the shopping, I'm surprised because there's a huge amount of independent shops, and certainly from what we hear in terms of feedback, people find that very, very attractive. But you can't win all these surveys. I think there was one last year in which we were third in the terms of the most recognised place in the country. I mean, certainly I don't agree with them with regard to the scenery and the general architecture of the town. But it's just obviously something to be worked out, probably more an issue for the Chamber of Commerce.
But like you say, it depends when they came to survey. They may have come on a Sunday afternoon. The majority of visitors who responded to this, when a lot of places are closed, or come of an evening.
They could have done. Yes, they could have done. As I said, probably with regard to the evening offering, it's probably fair comment. And as you say, on Sunday, a lot of the shops are shut. But certainly, I feel a bit sorry for some of the independent operators because there are a huge array of lovely shops in the town. But perhaps we'll have a better go at it next year.
Cancel your Which subscription.
That's right.
If it makes you feel any better, we beat Dorchester. They got 67.
Yes, well, as a county town, I mean, there's quite a lot to offer down in Dorchester, but at the end of the day, it's a working town. It's quite difficult to combine the two things of tourism and obviously the centre of the council and all the other things that go on there. But no, we do our best in Shaftesbury. We'll just have to buckle up and try and do better next year.
Well, we asked for your comments on Alfred's social media overnight, and you have responded. Steve Allen says, one gorgeous hill and a ruined abbey with a historic story doesn't make a town, I guess. Lottie Venema says, if the rent in shops wasn't ludicrous and businesses weren't closing all over the high street, leaving lots of empty shops, maybe we'd have scored higher. She says, I love Shaftesbury, but when it comes to shopping, you can see it all in half an hour. Chris Pankus, though, says, peace and quiet, well, that's as good as it's going to get in the world of towns becoming cities. Howard Smith says, for food and drink, well, Echo Gelato is a premium experience. It's a shame, he says, Turnbull's closed. What do you think?
This is the Alfred Daily.
We may have seen the people who'll determine Shaftesbury's future last night, perhaps without realising it. A drop-in event at the Guildhall was held to encourage anybody considering standing for election to the Town Council next year. Bree Logan, the Town Clerk, told the meeting that Shaftesbury was the second fastest growing town in Dorset now, and because of that they're increasing the number of town councillors from 12 to 15 to offer better representation. So from next May there'll be 8 representing the East Ward, broadly the area east of Christie's Lane, and 7 for the west of town. Several current town councillors were present and spoke about their motivation for volunteering on the town council. Councillor Andy Hollingshead, the Deputy Mayor, says there was project planning and the meeting to discuss some of the authority's big-ticket items, such as improving the play park provision. But he said it was also satisfying dealing with residents on a one-to-one basis and tackling problems. Somebody had come to him with an issue about a fence and a wall, which he was able to deal with successfully. Town Clerk Bree felt it was important that there were more people standing for election than seats available.
Where there's a contested election, it means that we've got more potential councillors than seats. And what it means is that the community can then vote in and have the power of voting in who they feel is going to represent themselves and the people that in their part of town.
Have you been pleased with the amount of interest? Because, as I understand it, there are more people who've said they would be interested.
I haven't actually counted tonight, but there's probably 12 here this evening, and we've probably got 5 or 6 of our councillors here as well, so it's a great turnout.
Bree says she's spoken with 7 further residents who are interested in potentially standing, but they couldn't go along on Tuesday night. Current Mayor, Councillor Virginia Edwin-Jones, was elected in a by-election rather than the full council election of the sort we'll have next May. She said that was quite nerve-wracking. It felt like a lonely experience, and she suggested that anybody considering running for next May should team up with other newbies, potentially sharing a leaflet and offering each other mutual support. The town council has put together an information leaflet. I asked Bree what she felt was putting people off standing for council.
People just maybe don't understand what it's like to make that commitment, and
View from the Hill. Great stories from Shaftesbury visitors on Alfred.
Penny, and you're with?
David.
And where have you come from?
Stokes Bay. Stoke.
So from Hampshire?
Yes.
And you've never been to Shaftesbury before?
Never.
So what's made you come here today?
We're touring Dorset for my husband's 83rd birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
You're not going to do that in a day, though, are you?
No, we're here for 5 days.
We saw it on television a little while ago. I think it was a programme about Dorset. I don't know.
A race.
They were racing.
Oh, the cheese racing up the hill.
That's right.
Well, you put your name down, it's next May. 24 kilos.
So we thought we'd make it part of our trip, didn't we?
Yeah, we
But
did.
so we did have a friend say, no, it's not worth it. And I think, no, how can you
you're so
say
wrong,
that?
I think.
He is wrong.
I need to have a word with your
Yeah, I
friend.
think so. We will. Don't you worry.
I'm amazed. I don't know what he thought it would be. I mean, it's just perfectly natural,
Well,
isn't
that's
it?
how you'd want it to be, wouldn't you? With the
Well, it
cobbles.
is a bit of a controversial point, actually, that the grass going through the cobbles, but there's an issue with removing it because people don't want the chemicals put down that would get rid of it. And also, if you try and pull it out, you can weaken the structure.
I quite like the look of it, though, don't you? I think it's great.
Of course, you don't want it that much longer, do you? I mean,
We've just been to Kingston. Is it Kingston Lacey, the big house? That was amazing too. I love Dorset. I really do.
So is this bit of Dorset undiscovered for you at the moment, then? Do you not really know it?
Yeah, just the Lyme
We've been
Regis.
to the touristy, like Lyme Regis and Bridport Market and things like that.
So not quite this far in, have we?
No.
So you've discovered a whole new area. It's like going through the wardrobe and Narnia, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, we drove up from, what's the name, Hinton Lacey?
Yeah, we're
What's the name?
staying at Hinton Lacey, just outside Blandford. And we came across country and we had found a lovely country pub and had a lunch. Something, different for us.
We saw the sign that said
Red Lion.
Red Lion, and we went down there and had a lovely lunch.
Yeah.
So what have you had for your 83rd birthday present, then?
This trip.
This trip.
That's hard to wrap, isn't it?
No,
Yeah,
seriously.
It's a lovely cottage we've got, and lovely people, and Airbnb.
Was it a surprise?
No, the picture looked fantastic. So you always hope it's going to be great, and it was. And it was everything it said.
And some.
And some, yeah. Yeah.
So when you give your friend a lecture about Shaftesbury, what will you tell your friend about Shaftesbury? What else have you liked about the town?
Ask him where else he went, because he certainly hasn't been here.
Well, he's been here, but he's
So they must
said
have
it
been
once
sunglasses on.
I
No,
mean,
it's lovely.
The little town is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
love it. Yeah, good. Very, very recommend it.
except for the toilets in the car park. It's absolutely filthy.
Was it dirty?
Oh, yeah. You don't want to go in there again.
View from the Hill. Great stories from Shaftesbury visitors on Alfred.
Now, this might make residents of Samley and Sedgehill, in fact anybody in Wiltshire who's been grumbling about the state of the roads there, which don't seem to be as in good nick as Dorset's roads, might make them a bit happier. Yesterday, Wiltshire Council had a cabinet meeting and they've announced to spend an extra £10 million over the next 2 years in maintaining and resurfacing the county's roads. The extra funding, on top of the £14 million the council will spend this year on highway maintenance, is coming through the council's capital funding programme. And they're going to spend the cash on preventative maintenance and road resurfacing, including, importantly, repairs to some of the rural roads, which might mean the area nearest to Shaftesbury on the Wiltshire side of the border. We don't know exactly which roads are going to be fixed up as yet, but they say, to put it into perspective, Wiltshire manages around 2,700 miles of road each year and normally resurface up to 80 miles each year. This extra funding means they should be able to resurface at least 130 miles of road each year for the next 2 years and address the deterioration of some of the rural road verges. Tony Dees has been in touch from the Cranbourne Chase Astronomy Club, and they're launching their autumn and winter programme. Better for stargazing, of course, when it's dark earlier. And their first session in this programme takes place a week today, Wednesday the 20th, at the new Memorial Hall in Charlton, where it is pretty dark. And they've got a talk, The Right Light at Night, with Steve Tonkin. He's been Alfred lots of times from the AONB, talking about avoiding excessive lighting at night and ways in which you can help reduce light pollution within the AONB. And a sign that autumn's on the way, the harvest lunch is back soon at the Town Hall. I've had a note from Sue, who wants you to know it's taking place on Friday, the 6th of October, from 12 till 1:30. There's no set charge. They rely entirely on donations, and there'll be lots of wonderful soup served up. There always is. So thanks to Sue Ballett for letting us know.
For Shaftesbury, Fontmell, the Vale and Chase, Alfred 107.3.
It's Shaftesbury Carnival on Saturday the 30th of September, an event arranged and driven by volunteers, and it's worth stressing how much effort goes in to make the whole Carnival week an enjoyable experience. There are certain people very happy to sit in an armchair, snipe and criticise. You'll see the same names again and again, moaning and being negative on Shaftesbury social media. This gives an example of how much unpaid work happens behind the scenes. Once again for Carnival Week, there'll be a window competition. High street traders will display an item you'll have to spot for a chance of winning prizes. Karen King, who operates Cranbourne's, is giving up her own time to arrange this and has an appeal to businesses. Please come back and agree to do this. Karen says it's occupying a great deal of her time at the moment.
Obviously, over the last few years, decorating the windows has become harder and harder with the businesses doing it. So last year we just did Guess the Fruit and Veg. Can you remember that? Last year?
I do remember that, yeah. I managed to identify an orange, I think.
Well done. So that was really well received and it was brilliant. So this year we're doing Name the Animated Character. I've been around to all the businesses. I've put it 84 businesses in town because obviously it needs to be in the high street. Can't really go elsewhere. It's too much for people to walk around everywhere. We've done a letter for everyone. I've put it in all the shops, and I think I've had about 28 replies out of 84.
You know, we're a bunch of last-minute Charlies, though, in Shaftesbury. It'll probably happen the day before it's meant to happen, won't it?
Well, I've put on there that I need to know by... Well, I've said it was supposed to be yesterday, but I've now said I'll give it to the end of the week because obviously we need to know how many businesses are going to be doing it so I can get the amount of characters done ready to go in the windows for Carnival week for the run-up, so that gives everybody a week to go and look around all the shops and the businesses and guess what they are.
So when you say animated characters, you mean Mickey Mouse, cartoon characters, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. So it's going to be, so some of them will be really easy, some of them probably won't be. We've had to we trialled it on my 19-year-old son, see how well he did, and we did 20 and he guessed the whole lot. So we're going to make some of them a little bit difficult that you wouldn't unless you knew the film, really. Yeah, anyway. Or we might blow up just a little bit of their faces or something like that. So not going to be too difficult because obviously you've got children doing it, but we might just throw in a few difficult ones. So it's, yes.
But if everybody came back, that's 84 businesses. Can you think of 84?
Well, I might have to.
There must have been at least 10 Smurfs, so that would give you 10. They're all blue.
And you could do the dwarfs, couldn't you? And just
7.
Make...
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
It's easy, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy.
What's all the fuss about?
It's getting them printed up is the thing, is finding the images and then printing them all up and getting them on the cards. That takes a couple of weeks, and obviously if I could get half of the businesses to do it, that would be really good, because it's worthwhile doing it, because the prize is £100, and the people from the Harvest, the new veg shop, have also offered to donate a £20 veg box as well. So technically you're getting the people will get £120 prize. So hopefully the businesses will get back in touch.
Karen's got some new businesses involved.
I've been to businesses that we haven't normally been to, because they're the chains, and actually they come back straight away and said, yep, we're joining this year, and they've never been asked before. So
that's good. Who's new then? Who's doing it for the first time?
So, here we go. So Costa Coffee, they never normally been asked, because I suppose, I don't know whether people just didn't like to ask the chain whether they were allowed to do these kind of things. So they've said yes. The new antique shop, the Black Cactus over the road.
If I were Harold's Opticians or iStyle Opticians, I'd put my picture in the window slightly out of focus, because it might drum up more business.
Yeah, so they're both doing it, so that's good. So I have had good, but it's just, if I could get to 40 or 50, and then it would be really good. And obviously for the businesses, it's good for them to get involved, because the people, when they get their £100, it's got to be from a shop that's participated, and it's got to be in the town. So technically you could have somebody come in and spend £100 in your shop. So it's a win on for you as well, isn't it?
So the money for the prize money, that comes out of the Chamber of Commerce's kitty, does it?
No, that comes out of Cranbourne's donation.
So the Cranbournes are paying? Wow.
Yeah, quite a few years ago, Chamber stopped doing it, and then it was obviously we had lockdown, so there was no carnival. So when it came back again, the Carnival committee didn't really know who to ask, and so I sort of took the reign over. So we actually, Cranbourne, sponsor the £100.
Well done, Karen.
Once I've got enough businesses to do it, because it would be really sad just to go, there's not enough, it's not worth it, and it would be awful, because actually last year people loved doing it, and especially on the day of the carnival, the amount of people that came in were getting the bits of paper and going around town, and the kids really enjoy it. So, and it's getting people looking in your shop window and seeing what you're selling. And they literally don't have to do anything. They just say yes or no, and I come round with the card, and it's all done, and they just stick it in their window. It's not a difficult thing to do. They don't have to decorate it or anything like that. If they want to decorate it so it looks carnival-y, they can put some bunting up or balloons or things like that, but it's just literally. So at the moment I just need the businesses to come back to me and say yes, we'd love to join in, or no, it's fine, thank you, not this year. And then once we've got it all sorted, the public know where they can get their forms from and what timescale, and it's free to enter. So
it'll be the usual thing running up to Carnival, a bit, probably the week before Carnival.
Yeah, so literally we tried to get it in the Saturday before the Carnival, so it gives people at least 2 weekends really to go around town, because you do find, like, especially on a Sunday afternoon, or it's the start of the Carnival week, people like to have a little mooch about and things like that. So yeah, so that's my plea.
Alfred, Shaftesbury's Community Radio.
This is Wednesday's Alfred Daily, and it's time for our monthly farming diary with former dairy farmer, now beef farmer, John Stanley, who farms at Allen's Farm in West Melbury, although John's still connected with dairy cattle, selling them through his part-time job. He tells us what's been growing particularly well with the weather extremities this year, either baking hot or boggy because of the rain, and he's going to make a prediction for the weather this winter. John, of course, has a holiday lodge on his farm. That's still open, but the tents are closed for this season.
It has been a bit tricky this year because the tents have kept flooding with a deluge of rain. Yeah, the tents are down now, so yeah, there's cattle in the field there grazing. It goes with the sort of school holidays, really, Easter to the end of the summer holidays.
Has it been a good season?
No, I don't think it's been anywhere near as good as previous years. The weather, the sort of last-minute sort of bookings to come haven't really materialised that much because the weather's been pretty dire. I mean, and there's some nights I wouldn't want to be outside in the tent, let alone paying to go and stay somewhere to do that. So, but yeah, no, it wouldn't have been a vintage year. It's not a disaster, but it's not been quite the throng and the sort of changeovers like we've had sort of periods of time where there's been no one there. I guess people are a little bit skinter, and I suppose no COVID restrictions. People can go abroad if you can ever get home or get anywhere with flight delays and things. But and other people, I suppose, people have got less money, so whatever they are spending, they may be spending going away or something a little bit more luxurious than staying in a tent in a field.
Do you think it's just related to the weather rather than a kind of
I think it's weather related. I mean, we have looked at other people's sort of similar sorts of businesses, and they've had sort of void periods in their calendars as well. So, and other people we've spoken to, it's been quite typical of this year really. So, let's see what happens next year. We've already got a few bookings for next year already. So. Fingers crossed.
One of the things people might not think about in farming is the fact that there are people there who will turn up and inspect you, like I suppose a food hygiene inspector would, a shop or a cafe, or you might get the VAT man coming to check your business. You've had a kind of a farming version of this. Who's been round?
Yeah, we've never had one before. Well, not me on my own anyway, but we've had a rural payments agency, the RPA, which is a branch of DEFRA, the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. We had a cross-compliance inspection last week with 24 hours notice. Which basically there's a whole set of rules that are there to govern protection of the environment, food, health, animal welfare, or a whole list of things which we have to adhere to and comply with because we claim sort of subsidies and grants, and in order that we're in receipt of those, we have to tick the boxes and pass the rules. So the lady came, she's a very pleasant lady, very good at her job. She looked at our fields, our boundaries, our hedges, what crops are in each field, the fertiliser records, any pesticide records of any sort of herbicides and pesticides we'd applied, any fertiliser we'd applied on the fields in question that she picked at random. And so she spent quite a bit of time looking at our records, which were all up to date. I'm quite good with our records. And then looked at a few of our animals, looked at our slurry lagoon, looked at how we spread manure and slurry and where it went to. So yeah, it's pretty thorough. It would be the equivalent of a sort of a proper, it's not a VAT inspection, so it's not money, but a sort of inspection that you're complying with rules, tax rules, and just rules of the land, really. So yeah, so it's quite daunting. I was quite worried about it because I didn't know quite what to expect, but it wasn't that bad at all, really. But I suppose we take public money in terms of the countryside stewardship grants and things to help enhance the environment and to produce food. So I suppose it is part of it, really. You have to do that. And if there was any breaches, you can get a percentage of your BPS, your basic payment scheme, withheld. I think 3% is the sort of minimum for any breaches, and then it escalates up. But we didn't have any, which is fantastic. So yeah, and I guess ultimately, if they found things they didn't like or didn't see, then ultimately you could be prosecuted, I guess.
Gosh, that sounds quite scary, but you can understand, like you say, if it's public money. So do you find out there and then that you've passed, or do you have to have a nervous wait like waiting for exam results?
We passed there and then, but I suppose it's right, really. We're in receipt of public money and you have to adhere to the rules.
Do you now know when she's coming next? Is it going to be like a couple of years?
Sheer potluck. I mean, we've been farming on our own for 14 years and we've never had anything like that. In schemes and things do change, but I'm sure apparently the scheme that's in running at the moment does change the end of this year, and there's something else. It was all to do with the EU originally. It was cross-compliance was all to do with that, but I guess when we left Brexit, the rule book was transferred over, or a slightly similar version was, and we've gone on. But things are changing next January.
You've had the combine harvester out?
Yes, we've been combining. Yeah, we combined our spring barley 2 weeks ago. Oh no, last week actually, middle of last week. It was a nice dry sunny day. And we got on and did it. It wasn't ideal. I mean, the crop itself was fit to harvest, but there's quite a lot of secondary regrowth due to the drought in the early summer when the seed was drilled. The majority of the seed chittered away and started growing, and then when we had all the rain, there was a bit of secondary regrowth of some of the seed that hadn't germinated the first time. So the field was all there crackling away like barley does to harvest, and there were still green shoots in there, so it was a little bit disappointing because it was now or never kind of moment. So we've got plenty of feed for the cattle, all totally. I just wanted to be self-sufficient, so we've produced our own feed, concentrate feed for the cattle, as well as the silage and the maize silage when we harvest that in a few weeks' time. Totally sort of self-sufficient. Don't need to buy any animal feed or cattle feed in at all, which is where I wanted to be.
Did you go to the Gillingwood Shaftesbury show?
We did indeed, yes, we did. We had a great day out. It was fantastic. And we went on the first day. It was really good. It was nice to see very strong agricultural backing and support there. Nice to see neighbours you see from one year to the next. I look at tractors that I can't afford and bits of equipment I can't afford. It was, I don't need, really. That's probably more the answer. It's nice to have things, but you don't always need them. No, I don't think I did probably learn anything that I didn't know before, if I'm honest, but I'm sure some of the general public would have done from what they saw in terms of farming and livestock and seeing the cattle. And obviously my particular interest is cattle, and it's great to see all the different breeds there, all in their finery and things, and absolutely myriad of sheep breeds, and good to see some of the young handlers as well. So it was very, very, very good, very well organised.
Are you a fan of a 2-day show?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been to it more when it's been a one-day show. I think it wasn't packed on the day that we went. I was surprised it wasn't busier, but it does seem a little bit more spread out. I think the layout's changed. I suppose my only slight disappointment would have been I'm interested still in dairy cattle, and they were on the second day and we were there on the first day, so I suppose they have to split it, and I suppose that's the divide they had. So, a fan of the 2-day show. Yeah, it's obviously working for the society, so yeah.
Are you missing your dairy cattle? You don't want to go back and switch from beef?
No, I see dairy cattle every day in my new role of selling dairy cattle. So my part-time job, I have 3 days a week. So no, I wouldn't say I do miss them. Yeah, I miss the sort of the routine, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and it works well for us with the farm we've got. So. This year would have been challenging for a different reason. Last year and previous years were challenging because of drought, and this year would have been very challenging because of being very wet and very muddy. Yeah, I mean, we have heaps of silage. We're silaging again this week, our third cut. We haven't had grass grow this well since 2017, before the beast from the east. And don't know, just make you wonder a little bit.
Are you making a weather prediction on the radio?
I'm making my weather prediction on the radio.
Hang on, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to lock it away in a cabinet.
Berries galore on the hedgerows and on the bushes and on the trees, and there's a heap of silage being produced now, and the maize is sky high. And that's exactly how it was in 2017, which was our bumper year for forage. And this year is looking to be the same, which it didn't look like earlier on in the summer, but it is now. My prediction is we're in for a hard winter.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really, snowed in sort of winter?
Oh, I can't give it that far in advance, but my old farmer tale would tell me that nature is providing. So who knows? I'm stood here looking at an acorn tree now, and it's absolutely covered in acorns. But
start September.
So who knows? But this time in April, we'll know, won't we?
So we've had good growth, John, of the blackberries around West Melbury, and also you're saying that your maize is doing particularly well this year.
And some of it's sort of 8-9 foot tall in places, phenomenal crop, and great big cobs on there. So just could do with some sunshine to get it to sort of ripen and die off a little bit, really, because it's looking very green at the moment, which it needs to sort of have that sort of autumnal, sort of slightly dying off sort of stage, really, before harvest. But it's been a great year for maize. The heat was at the right time, and then the moisture came at the right time. Yeah, and the beef cattle have grown really well this summer. They look really decent. So the sort of 3 groups we've now got, we've got another group to buy in probably the end of September, October time.
How many cattle have you got now?
280, 285, something like that.
And are you increasing?
I've got a few to sell. I've got some dairy heifers to sell that are in calf, so hopefully they can go a little bit later on in the autumn. And then we've got some young calves to come, just so we've got a cycle of beef cattle coming in, about 80 in the autumn, 80 in the spring, and then 80 go out, if that makes sense. But we're sort of 3/4 of the way there to where we need to be for our cycle, so another 60 or 80 to come in. and then all the dairy heifers have then gone, and then we're totally beef. So that's the plan in my head anyway. So it seems to be working. We sold a few beef cattle recently, so we'll keep what we've got now and plenty of feed and let them go on over the winter. We've got quite a lot to get sorted before the winter. Got a bit of building work to do on some of the cattle yards and things, but and then look to start. That will be in September, getting the barley in for next year's harvest. We've got about 30-40 acres of barley to get in, so then the cycle carries on another year.
And that's farming, and that's John Stanley of Allen's Farm in West Melbury, back in a month's time here on Alfred. And that is it for Wednesday's Alfred Daily. I'll catch you with a new edition for Thursday. Listen from 6 in the morning at 107.3 FM, and the podcast available later through thisisalfred.com and wherever you get your podcasts.